Good evening. This is the Bakersfield Planning Commission meeting for September 19th, 2022. And we're opening the hearing at 7:08 p.m. and want to ask if there are any adjustments to the agenda. Okay. As everyone should note, the agenda has some additions from the original, and not sure if we're going to get to all of these, given that some of the parties are not actually here. So we'll take the agenda as it's written, and we'll have introductions of the Planning Commission. We'll start with Tammy at the end of the table.
Tammy Brennan. Nikki Cribb.
Bill Irwin.
And Carter.
And just a reminder to everyone that you need to press the button and speak into the microphone so it records clearly. And the first of our hearings is an if needed, and I don't see any of the parties here, and that is a continuation of the Gates Vincent boundary line adjustment. Is there anyone here representing that particular case? Okay, so we'll move on to the next hearing, which is a sketch plan review for Bob Anderson, a minor subdivision. Is there anyone representing the Anderson party? Okay.
Maybe we can look at it after we've done the.
Brenda Churchill zoning. It's in the last phase of approval. It just needs our approval to move that to the next or last level, and certainly can be done at the end of this.
Okay. All right, so we'll move the Anderson minor subdivision hearing to sometime later in the meeting to allow those who are here to have their hearings first. Okay. So that'll likely come as a new item 11.
Before we move on, can I just ask Mike Travis a question?
Yes.
Do you think Mike and Arlene's will be a shorter presentation than Marcel's? So maybe we can just switch.
So you're representing both? Okay.
Swap those around. Is that all right with you, Marcel?
And you folks are okay with that? All right. We like to be friendly, especially when it's raining cats and dogs. All right. So we have adjusted the agenda so that we'll hear then Mike and Arlene O'Rourke, a minor subdivision sketch plan review. And who do we have representing folks for that? No, if you want to get that. And again, there's a little push button on the mic. It'll be green when you're able to be heard and recorded. We're going to have once you started there, Ken, have a piece of paper with, here you go. We'll just ask you to put your name and address and signature, if you don't mind. Thank you, Ken. Sent the big one down that way.
Oh, a lot of neighbors, they got. Yeah.
Let's just do this one and then we'll, yeah, we don't want to get things mixed up. Here are some smaller versions for your personal files. We'll take that large one at the end and keep it for the file. You need one, Brenda?
Nope. I'm all set. Yeah, I'll take it back.
So those are all the butters? Well, it happens. And I'm glad that you were willing to notify all of them. Yeah,
This is Mike Jarvis. I'm the surveyor, and septic designer for Mike and Arlene O'Rourke. Proposed 2-lot subdivision. They're gonna subdivide off 10 acres off their 50-acre farm for their daughter to build a house on. They'll have a separate drive, individual proposed drilled well. The septic system's gonna be off-site because we found a nice area for an in-ground system. And we want to keep the lot as uniform in shape as we could, so we just did an easement over there for the septic. Aside from that, the existing house is well away from the property lines. The proposed house is well away from the property lines. Pretty straightforward, no proposed easements other than that septic system.
Line's already buried there to.
That line is, yes, the utility line that shows going across, there is an easement to, that exists to that. Volume 75, page 185 lists that easement. And that goes to Ed Rob Troy and Tanya Hayes.
and water, is that the small icon sort of in the middle of the southern half of the lot?
Yes, that's where the proposed drilled well will be.
Septic is on the Mike and Arlene's land there. Lot there, yeah.
Yes, the septic and the easement will be on Mike's remaining land, Mike and Arlene's remaining land. If you look up in the right-hand corner, you can kind of see the big rectangle, it's the remaining land.
And then will there be some sort of adjustment to the deed for what is going to become lot 2 for that septic easement?
So, yeah, so when lot 1 is conveyed,
Yeah.
it'll carry the language in it that
Okay.
it's benefited by that easement. And then whenever any conveyance happens after that for lot 2, that will automatically go in.
Great, great. Now, there's no contours on this map. Don't see them on the larger map either. That is something that's required. If we could get those on the final plat, that would be good
Absolutely.
to make sure that there's no obvious issues here relative to, for example, steep ledge or something of that nature.
Yeah, we can absolutely add those in that section. It's pretty uniform. It's sloped, but it's uniform. I would estimate 10 to 15%.
And then,
Yeah, yeah. Where the house is a little flatter. Maybe it's probably under 10% there. And then where the septic systems are down there, that's like a flat mill. Common of sand deposits.
First place to look there.
No, it wasn't, but Mike had a pretty good idea. It was dry down there.
hoping this to be the final.
Um,
final fill?
I have all the survey work done, other than putting the contours on. If that's the only thing, then we'd be more than happy to go right to final.
So there's a driveway that is somewhat indicated by the tan lines that are there.
Yep.
And then there's another drive that's south of that, says Field Drive entrance,
Yep,
maybe labeling that,
proposed drive.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that it's clear that that's what that is.
Yeah, we kind of just lumped it all into proposed house drive and well, because, yeah, as you know, it's the subject to change a little bit during construction,
Right.
but we can certainly point that out.
And from your observations of the land during the survey, did you see any wetlands or?
I didn't observe any wetlands. The other areas that we had dug were on lot one, and I was seeing seasonal between, 15 and 24 inches, which doesn't indicate wetlands.
And then did you check with the Agency of Natural Resources, their atlas, to see if
I-
they're,
Yeah, that's part of the process we have to go through for the wastewater now. They lump that in, so.
Okay.
If we haven't, we will, but I'm pretty sure we already have on this one.
and there is a demarcation runs the whole property. So that is wetland there where it has the WL and the kind of red lines?
On-
That's the other
um,
property is,
Yes, down below.
that's how it would
Yeah.
be demarked if you were,
Yeah.
to yeah,
Yeah, so they already did put that on there.
okay.
I apologize. I didn't draft this one, so.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And did we get any kind of commentary when we sent out the notices to the abutters? Were you aware of any concerns? I bet they're happy that it's going to good people, your family. Well, do you have any questions? Comments?
We accept it with those.
So if we could take a final plat next time around and sign it when it is delivered here.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm gonna add the label for the wetlands, add the contours in, and clearly label the drives.
If this motion passes. So that would be the motion that we would accept this as a final sketch with a final plat to be accepted with those conditions as indicated, specifically demarcation of the drives, the demarcation of any wetlands, and the contours. And then I or Ken or would sign it when it's delivered here. So is there a second to that motion?
A second.
Okay. All right, any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion to accept this as a final plat or final sketch with final plat delivery with adjustments as indicated in the hearing? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right,
Thank you, guys.
you're welcome. All right. Move then to the Marcel Parent Major Subdivision Hearing, Sketch Plan Review. And we can wait a few minutes if you want for Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah. No, we'll just keep signing on that same one. How you going?
So. Who do we have? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Mr. Marshall.
And if everybody could sign that.
There yet? Or? Oh, my God. Pretty sharp.
Okay, we're going to open the hearing with the Marcel Parent Major Subdivision Sketch Plan Review. And this is identified as a PUD, Planned Unit Development. And we don't get these too often. I don't think it's been for 15 years or more. So this could do with some discussion and learning. Yeah. So how would you folks like to proceed?
I just gotta stand up and just feel more comfortable.
Sure.
Yeah, so we've got a 4-lot PUD. We're proposing 3 small lots. I guess I should go to the big one first, seeing how that's lot 1. 3 small lots with the larger parcel being 36.1 acres remaining. On that 36.1 acres, we're gonna have 20.1 acres of open space set aside, agricultural land, to never be developed. And we're planning on doing that with the deed restriction on that. So basically, there'll be covenants written for the PUD explaining this open space cannot be used for development, and that'll carry with not just this lot, but it'll be in the other lots also.
Forever? Or
Yes.
plan?
Yeah, I don't think there's any other way to do it. So lot 1 does have a proposed house down close to 108. And that's gonna have its own drive, which is gonna utilize the existing gravel field drive. The idea is, if somebody's gonna buy this for a farm homestead or something like that, they're not gonna care if they're sharing a drive with the agricultural. Because it'll probably be them. The other proposed lots, lot 2 is gonna be 1 acre. Lot 3 is gonna be 0.8 acres, and lot 4 is gonna be 2.2 acres. They're all gonna share a drive coming off County Road. Typically, the state would try to force us to come off county road with any new houses other than the existing one, because they don't like any new accesses on their road if they can help it. That'll be less traffic, you know, coming in and off different points on Waterway where it's pretty fast through there. All the septics for lot 2, 3, and 4 will be on lot 4 with an easement. It's outlined. It's a little bit hard to follow on this plan. I'm going to be honest with you. It's outlined right around the text versus lot 4, 2.2 acres. Being a sketch plan, I haven't done a still review on the bearings and distances and everything. So that will be cleared up. So you got more blown up sheet.
Yeah.
Good.
You want one of these?
Yeah, let me make sure I copy this. One of my guys print this off. So okay, so it is clear, more clear on there. It's because I only got sheet 1, not sheet 2, or vice versa. So that shared easement's all in-ground septic systems. So they're all gonna, but it is gonna be pumped, pressurized. Yeah. So all 3 of the houses will have their own septic tanks and individual lines until they connect on lot 3, and then it'll be shared going down through lot 4 to the pump station, which will pressurize the entire system. That's part of the reason why lot 4 is bigger than the others. We try to keep them as small as we can to keep agriculture, as much agriculture as possible, but we needed more area with that easement, you know, to keep a house on there and make it a feasible lot. There are no wetlands in the area of development. I know on the back side of the lot, there are some wetlands that were associated with the brook that runs through, but nothing is happening over there. The shared drive is going to come up through and have a hammerhead on lot 3 for emergency turnarounds, emergency vehicles, fire turnarounds. That's as you can see with the contours on here, that's a pretty flat area. So it'll be a natural, easy area to put in a nice big turnaround like that.
So while you're talking about that, I just wanted to ask our zoning administrator if there's a customary step to have the fire department look at the driveways for adequacy for their purposes.
With that said, signing 911 addresses will cover that. Look at the access points. 911 system. That's my understanding.
So you're saying the 911 survey will cover that because the fire chief is currently the 911 administrator? Okay. Yeah, just wanted to make it clear for the record that that's why fire would be looking at that, is because they are the 911 administrators at this time. At least the fire chief is. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was asked to verify that we want to make sure that that's happening with all of the new driveway or road development in town. And I think we've been doing it all along, but I wanted to just take this opportunity to verify it since I was asked recently by the fire department to do that. I'm sorry,
No problem. So after the wastewater systems, I'll move to the wells. We're proposing 2 shared wells. So lot 3 and 4 will share a drilled well, and lot 1 and 2 will share a drilled well. And that's mainly to cut down on the number of holes going through the bedrock in a rather tight area. And typically you can get 2 houses off a well if you plan for it and drill deep enough. If you don't have the adequate supply, you can always put in.
so where does the responsibility for that well lie when 2 property owners share it. For example, if the well goes dry or the pump needs replacement.
Yep, so if the well goes dry, it is their shared responsibility to either hydrofrac, drill deeper, or drill a new well. And they could do individual wells at that time if they decided. If the pump goes dry, burns up, there's two types of systems that can be put in, and we haven't specified this yet. So you can either put in two separate pumps, one for each house, or you can do a shared pump with a shared pressure tank. For the preference is to do one pump because you have less tangling of the pumps down in the wells, especially if they're over a couple 100 feet. And it's less energy to have the one pump. You can just do one 10-gallon per minute pump. And if that's the case, then it's a 50-50 share. And typically in the covenants, they'll also write in, because one house will be paying for the electricity. So they'll typically write in an allotment that house would get, $100 a month, or not that high, but like $100 a year or something like that towards electricity for the pump.
Okay.
So yeah, so there'll be two shared wells. That is. The septic system will be written in, so the line from the house to the tanks will be individual to each house. And then once it hits the joint line, it'll be part of the association, part of the covenants.
Is lot one, are they going to be part of the association or?
They will be part of the covenants, but not necessarily part of the association. Because typically you'll have the road maintenance agreements and septic agreements tied in with those other three lots. So there will be aspects of the covenants that lot one will not be a part of and won't have a say in. But they will be, there's a master document that will have to get prepared for you guys to review before the end. That'll outline all of this stuff. But the attorneys will write that up, not me. I just go through it with them and point everything out. But at this point, I don't foresee lot one being part of the road maintenance or septic agreements with the association. Yeah, that's exactly what we're hoping is to keep it in productive agriculture. Right now, it's hay meadow and pasture. And if in the future, it grows into a maple bush, that would be associated with agriculture. It's part of the same forestry agriculture. It's just a restrictive easement, covenant and easement that would not allow development for residential or commercial use.
The other three lot owners will have access to that land, kind of.
That's not what we're planning on for this one. We're not doing it as an open common space. We're doing it as open agriculture. Because if with this one here, if we were to give everybody access, it'd be hard to keep it in ag because they could say, well, I want it for horse riding. I want it for bike riding, so the plan here is to keep it in agriculture.
Parties that are expressing an interest in-
The one that's renting it now has interest in buying it. It's the house.
Is that, if they would buy it, is that, how does that affect the people?
They would still be subject to all the conditions that are approved here unless they wiped out if they bought everything and wiped out the subdivision completely. That's the only way they can do that. And so if any of these lots were to sell, then it's in there for forever then. So if he buys just lot one, he could continue to use it for agriculture, and he would be subject to that restriction. But he bought one.
Lot number one.
Yep, so he would be subject to that. Lot one's 36.1. 20 acres of it is restricted for that open space to get, that's to meet the required area for the PUD. It's still gonna be used for agriculture for the most part, but it doesn't have the restrictions. So like I'm showing the house here, they could come back and say, we want to move the house to the top of this knoll, which is actually a very nice spot. And so they could put it anywhere on that 16 with your approval. They could not put the house inside that 20 acres. Not unless your regulations allowed them to.
This is all open meadow.
Right.
Curious, is there a reason you made that one lot 16 acres? Or is there a reason for that, or just?
Lot one,
Yeah,
we were trying to keep as much of it open as you could. So, I mean, we met the restricted area, but we didn't want to restrict everything and put extra burden on it without cost. I mean, the alternative to doing it this way is to come in and do 4 10-acre lots, which nobody's be happy with out there. Well, the farmers wouldn't be happy with it, I should say.
most of that meadow wrap, I mean, the whole thing is a meadow, right?
Yep, yeah, so the only area that is pasture is that, you can see the little fence area on the second sheet, on the big sheet.
Couple acres.
Access is crossing the orange barn. For lot one, that's for
That's correct.
that farm road. So obviously the. There's a lot there. Hey. Wow, I did see. A little bit, compared to that.
I take that as meaning we're avoiding fragmenting that at the ag fields as a natural resource.
Keeping as big a space open as possible.
And that's, of course, for the third bullet, to preserve agricultural forestry resources.
Mhm.
look at
I just want to ask one more question. So I was just thinking about the shared wealth situation there. Is that that's going to be written into the covenants? So say someone, buys lot one and they say, oh, I want my own well.
Yes, yeah, that'll be written in. So if typically the way I see it, and I'm gonna suggest it be written, I can't control that the lawyers write, because they always have different language than I come up with, but my suggestion would be that they put a clause, the easement is to be shared at whatever percent they come up with, so long as both houses are using it. So like if one, as you said, drills their own well because they're arguing with the neighbor and don't want to share it, then they would no longer be. Yeah, it would require a permit amendment with the state to get to have the individual versus the shared.
The wells are sort of taken out.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they go hand in hand with wastewater. When we do a wastewater permit, the water supply is included in that.
Want to speak, Dennis? You have anything to say? Or? Seats are uncomfortable, aren't they?
For screens. Yep.
Could you introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, this is Dennis Ovitt, adjoining landowner.
Thank you.
Your house is right here.
Yep.
These lots are over here. So on that off county road below the big, so this is the high middle there.
Got lot 2, 3, 4. Where's lot 1?
So lot one is all of the remaining.
Okay. How close is this to my property? Well, all of this, how close is all of this? Must be start somewhere. Is this,
So the drive across from your house,
yeah,
they used to go up in the field,
yeah.
that's right here.
Okay, so you're saying this,
This is the main road.
right, but this is all lot 1? So the road,
The existing, they're gonna come in on the same existing drive that's there now.
okay. So my land,
This chunk right here.
okay. So what I'm asking is this lot all the way to my land?
Yeah, because they're gonna own all that lot one, for all the rest of it.
Okay. So my concern is my water system's been here for 200 years.
Mhm.
And I want to know how close someone might get to that, either with a building, a road, or a septic area.
Yep, so we're not proposing anything coming closer than the existing drive that goes up.
Good,
The septic system's gonna be over in the field over here.
okay,
It's gonna be over the 150 feet sideways from your well.
okay. do they drill? If they were to build, you're saying they can't build on this? What if they did?
Build a house on that?
There ain't very much
No,
space
no,
there.
and that's the steeper slope part.
Yep.
Right there. What, board members, what is the slope? 25% you cannot build on?
Oh, if it's an existing, you can't
Right.
tear it down and build?
Right, so that's,
That's kind of eliminates that corner then.
it does. yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
they will, if they do anything here, they're gonna have to meet the setbacks.
Okay.
They can't harm your water supply.
Okay, I also have a water line which actually crosses their area too.
I can add that in, because when we did this survey.
Yeah. That's all my concern. I mean, I just,
Your water's on the other side of 108 on House and Barner, or?
yeah,
Okay, if I come up, I'll show you this.
Yeah.
So, what this one was talking about is this little area right here, South End Spring Path, that's a spring area. And we have a water line. Don't show it on here. If we do have it, then we could consider it this way.
That yellow line.
Yeah, so this spring is right.
And you own that piece, that little.
yes, I do.
Well, it's just actually that little.
Just this
tiny
rectangle.
little-
Yeah, it's specifically for the.
That feed the barn too, or
Pardon?
that water feed the orange barn too? or-
No, no, just, well, it did feed my dad's milk house for a while, but not the cows.
No?
It was,
Was it good for
you
that?
get good water in the milk house and you get passed by the
Yeah.
whatever, but no, that same hillside where my spring is, there's a line of springs. One fed my old house, old farmhouse. The next two fed the barn. And so there's water in that sand hill, because that's all sand where that spring is.
Huh?
And
Is it
it
wet
was
all-
there a couple hundred years
Is it wet?
because it fed my house all those years with a 1/2 inch iron pipe. No, I'm sorry, lead pipe. How good was that?
Right.
But a 1/2 inch lead pipe running into a barrel down in the cellar. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So that's what I tapped into when I
I don't blame
put
you.
in my spring, or Leonard Weed did.
I don't blame you. That doesn't feed Andy's house, or
Pardon?
that doesn't feed Andy's house?
No, there's one down below, right down near where the barn spring was, that fed Andy's house. The whole hillside. My other question is, I couldn't quite hear what you were saying, if this lot decides to be purchased, he has access to all of the remaining area, right?
Correct.
What if this guy buys it and this lot is not taken yet? Can this guy access this other area?
So he's asking if lot 3, for instance, was purchased, would that guy be able to access lot 1?
Yes,
The answer would be no in that case.
no. So
The
here's,
restriction would go on lot 1, but if it's still owned by Marcel, Marcel would still have the right to keep people off.
yeah. So the only one that's gonna access this would be lot 1 ownership.
That's correct.
Okay. Being that it's going to be agricultural. Can that be used by a hay land purchaser like today, like Matt, isn't it today? And who does he have to lease that from or pay the person? One of these landowners?
It would be whoever owns lot one. So lot one could still decide to lease the land to Matt, or whoever.
Yep.
And it'd be whoever owns lot one. So if Marcel still owns lot one, they would talk to him.
That's kind of all I had. And I know Mikey take care of me, but just wanted to make damn sure.
Curtains now, though. No. Just looking at you because your brother's, like you. You have any comments, David, or questions? David, do you have any comments or questions, or?
I'm not here representing the farm per se, but
Can't forget, you need to introduce yourself.
Sorry, you need to introduce yourself.
I'm sorry,
That's okay.
David Ovitt, and I'm not an abutting landowner. I'm sorry to hear representing the town, I guess. I think with so much shared land and facilities, one of the major criteria is going to have to be a homeowners association. I've been in a situation where that wasn't done and it was a nightmare. And with the open land, that land actually belongs to the three homes. Those are 10-acre areas, and though it's a PUD, it still has to have roughly 10 acres or more for each landowner, and they, with the association, would have to decide what was going to happen with that property.
Bigger lot you're talking about? The bigger lot that's,
The open land. That's theoretical, well, not theoretically, that's literally part of those three landowners' properties.
yeah, you say about that? Yeah.
That's not the way this one's proposed. This will not be part of those three lots. In the PUD regulations, it doesn't state that it has to be common land. It says common or open space.
But it has to be 10 acres for each one.
It gives a certain percentage of the lot size that has to be set aside.
Side as non-developable forever. Because that's incorporated in the 40 acres
The 10-acre minimum lot size.
with the planned unit development regulations. Has to have at least 50% non-developable.
The one I'm familiar with is the one that was on the gravel.
That one's supposed to be owned by the association.
Mhm.
And all that would be owned jointly.
So I have 100 acres. I can put 10 houses and reserve the other. I can't develop it, but I can pretty much do anything I want to with it.
Agriculturally, or you can do agriculturally. You could do whatever you wanted with it, like plant trees or
And the
graze.
people in the houses aren't gonna have anything to say about it.
Not if you do it that way, or you could have that be common land.
Interesting. I think there's a flaw there. A major one. I was not under the misapprehension that you could that you could sever the other property. I thought there still had to be 10 acres in a 10 acre or 25 in a 25 acre area for each residence.
See, this way you can take 4 dwellings on 40 acres, but keep huge piece of it open. And that's the purpose that they do this, so that they can still, cover the 10 acre per, but do smaller and keep the big piece open.
Doesn't. I think there's a flaw in the system.
So might be that. Ideally, I think most of us want that to be stay in it, We'd rather not have 10 or 4 spaghetti lots there crossing that.
No, I totally agree with the concept of the PUDs. I just didn't realize that you could separate the open land from the residences. Very interesting.
This is the first one we've seen that's being proposed like this. Keeping that land sort of separate instead of being a common land.
It's like having your cake and eating it too, isn't it?
As long as you don't develop your cake.
Mike, have you ever done this before?
Not in Bakersfield, but yeah, we go.
Like another town?
Some towns actually force us to do them on every subdivision. So, Moncton, for instance, every subdivision that we put through Moncton that's more than 2 lots has that they want specifically what we're trying to do here. Small lots, the garbage is picked up in the same spot, reduces utilities, and keeps more open land. Big push down there isn't so much agriculture, although they do still let us use agriculture. It's more conservative forest for 5 acre lots. You get a 5 acre lot, somebody uses 1 acre in the front, and then the back part. Maybe you can't manage it as a big forest anymore. Yeah, we do them quite often.
So I really think that part of the approval would have to be requiring a homeowners association, because there's so much shared stuff. But now I have a question for Mike, if you don't mind if I talk to Mike. What if one of the people in one of the residences disapproves of what's taking place on the open land? They don't have anything to say about it?
Not as long as it meets the covenants that they set. So if they say they're not doing agriculture there, then they would have a leg to stand on. But if they say, I don't like the way they're doing agriculture there, then that's not what I'm saying.
I'm thinking of manure spreading in particular. Well,
Never forget, well, yeah.
I know a gal, and you do too, that didn't like her own family spreading manure right next to her lawn. You probably know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And she didn't have much recourse. Yeah, okay, that's all I had.
I kind of, I'm curious about that now. There's not going to be an association technically, is there? Or
Well, there's gonna be covenants.
Yeah.
And part of the covenants may be that they set up an association. I personally agree that there should be an association, at least for the 3 lots.
The reason I said that was because I was in a development where there wasn't, and it was a constant fight all the time for driveways and rights of ways and everything. It just, I don't want anybody to ever go through that again.
They're gonna have to have road maintenance as well.
Yes, the road maintenance is one of the biggest things that people fight over. These shared drives and developments. If you don't have an association. So I would be completely behind the board requiring that as part of this commission.
would end up getting to? Could the board actually make that a condition or?
Yeah, so we had just over 40 acres. So we have total, so we had 20.1 acres set aside. Any remaining? Yeah, so lot. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Well, it's not a separate lot. It's more easement on the lot. Right.
You would make that a separate lot?
I don't believe so, because then you would have 5 lots and it's only 40 acres. So you think here?
Leo McCarthy. Yes, Andrew Ovid is her dad and my father. So
No, he's in another about.
yes, yep.
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to see where it was as well.
Yeah. So the open space goes all along.
So I had a couple questions about where the houses themselves, oh, lot 3, lot 2, and then lot 4 is right here. Okay,
Yeah. So this
So-
is that big ridge that runs up through.
okay.
So we're keeping them all on the front side.
Okay, so we would still, we are considering building on Andrew Ovid's land in the up County Road. We just wanted to make sure we still have access to County Road, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then with if we were to consider purchasing lot 1, if it ever came on sale after you made it forever agricultural land, isn't there some stipulation that it could also be used for, like, say, recreation, i.e. like mountain bike trails or anything like that as well? Or,
That would be part of what the board's decision is. If they say, we're
Okay.
bringing it in as agriculture and then we want it to stay agriculture. There's other,
I know,
we'd have to present them with other options.
I know like the Vermont state rules say undeveloped land mostly means agriculture, but with outdoor recreation kind of being thrown in there as like a sub paragraph. So I just wanted to know, or I guess we're not there yet with that
So
answer.
you're, way I understand it, you're proposing it's gonna be ag.
That's what we were proposing, yeah. I mean, I don't. As far as biking, I don't see how that would interfere with the ag unless you put in, bike trails that,
Yeah,
What if say that these guys did buy that? Would there be a way to change wording, language in that if we approved it as ag or?
They would have to come back in front of the board and get that approval. And if any of the lots are sold, those lots would have to approve that also. So once they give the rights away to somebody, that person could say no.
And if it was recreational, like they couldn't add facilities. You know, that they couldn't do,
Say something, this is totally upside down. This piece of land that we're doing is not even close to where they belong.
Where are you talking about?
Was this Andy Ovid?
Yeah. So he's still
He's-
theoretically buying lot one, or just theoretically, he's gonna put it out there.
The whole person,
The whole thing.
the whole thing, the 36.
Okay, I guess I'm off course. I thought he was talking about something that didn't make
No.
sense at all.
We were kind of just trying to overhear to see if my son had any kind of what the power of that was.
That's initially what.
We've been in messages that electric company about putting some poles up there and he was planning on developing that land. And he was gonna get some kind of deal. Just, I don't know.
Are you guys? Are you guys on the same side of the road as what we're here for today, or are you on the other side of the road?
We're on the same side of the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounded like you were on the other side.
No, we're up County Road. See that?
Oh, yeah, you guys have a parcel like
To
that.
that road.
I apologize.
No, it's okay.
You know, like, there's a bunch of pieces there. I apologize, there is some of them.
Yeah.
Not. I can show you where. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Just asking all the dumb questions.
No, that's good. No.
While I'm on record. But anyway, that's all I got.
We wanna know too. We wanna be able to.
Yeah, I think back to the initial question of the recreation or biking on that, it's something that we hadn't proposed at this point, but I think we're open to suggestions, being that we're at sketch plan.
that motorbiking.
Just, yeah, maybe potentially, mountain biking and motorbiking.
Mhm. So you'd be dealing with sound for that.
Yeah, I was mostly thinking about just
Yeah,
bike trails.
yep,
That's-
yep.
Just so we join it to our 10 acres.
And it would always stay separate. It would just be contiguous. So the restrictions would still apply to that section. It would just be contiguous with yours.
So talking about the notion of the lot one being sold at some point in time. And I think you said it, but I just wanted to make sure I heard it correctly. It would likely be that at the conclusion of deliberations here, we would have to specify that whatever is in the covenants for lot one would stay with that lot when it was sold. Is that correct?
Yeah, so when we get to final, we're gonna have the actual covenants with the deed restrictions on them. And that will all be part of your approval. So unfortunately, you're gonna have a lot of documents to read. That will outline what we're talking about, including the restrictions on this lot. So if it should spell out their exact questions.
Right. And of course, you're saying you're going to describe all of this, but it's really supposed to be us, planning commission, that are to some degree representing others.
Yes, so I'm sorry if I misspoke. You guys are gonna give us the suggestions.
Right.
We're gonna put the documents together for your approval
Right.
with putting your suggestions in there, meeting these.
Yeah. And the reason I put it in terms of us trying to represent the rest of the town is that we don't really want this to be a decision that is about right now, which is Mr. Marcel has the property and he has these intentions, including currently that 20.1 acres would be reserved for restricted to agricultural uses. And we don't know if there are other interests in the town, like those expressed by Sabrina Ovid and Neil McCarthy, that could be instead a space that would be useful for town recreation, like just open territory for mountain biking or cross-country skiing or whatever. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do we get what is the better good for the
So,
town?
so we're not proposing this to be an open space for the public. That's not what we're proposing.
Right.
No, that's not in here, but you could say that you don't want to limit us to say just agriculture. You could say agriculture, recreation,
Right.
and lay out what you want us to have
Right.
included in that.
Yeah, and I understand that. And I think that's reasonable. I'm just trying to make sure that we do try to represent as much as possible the best intentions of not just those parties that are here with us today, but all the parties going forward. That's what a PUD is really meant to do,
Yeah,
is to provide for the most part, in perpetuity, planned unit development where you have efficient housing space, but you're also preserving land for specific reasons. Maybe it's just pure beauty in some people's eyes, others it might be recreation, others it might be agriculture.
yeah.
We need to try to figure a little bit of that out.
The reason we went with agriculture here is because for the past 200 years, this has been agriculture in this area. This is the agricultural district. So that's why we want to keep it in that, it's been the Ovid farm since sometime in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So we're trying to stay with the character of the land. Not to say that mountain biking or some other uses like that would be against it, because certainly it's used for recreation now. Hunting, fishing and
Mhm.
I appreciate that. Same time, you're going this way first, so that then you have to for us.
Mhm.
right.
And it does say preserve for agricultural, forestry, and maintain rural character. Open space shall provide for the protection of resources on the site, including surface water. I mean, it doesn't really get into recreational.
The soil is. Well, it is not the number one, but it's probably number 3.
So I
Where,
think,
where I live in Weston, land that I own, Westminster, going down the hill by the shore. That's the best land there is.
so this, I've sort of got a question about that. So currently, I think maybe you just thought about it. So currently this land is, this 40 acres is it being farmed? Is it in?
Yeah, the neighbor, this is ours.
Yeah, it's hayland.
Okay,
Except for the small area, part of the set aside area is pasture land, just due to the steep slopes and the fact that there's a stream that runs down on that side.
so the 20 acres that you've set aside, is that the most productive land? Was that, given that 40 acres, is that the best for, I mean, to keep it in it?
Oh, yeah.
And if the person that buys lot 1 decides they want to do nothing with it, then it wouldn't be in production, it would just be sitting. I mean, is that allowed within the covenants? Is that, I mean, could it just be left?
As long as they don't do something that would prevent it from
Elsewhere,
going
okay.
back into ag.
So there is a possibility that it could be no longer in no longer productive land. It would be zoned agricultural, but it could be unproductive.
Yeah, I don't think we could put language in there that would
We can't force
force
it.
somebody to-
That's what I think. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
And the 16 acres of that lot that doesn't have the restriction, they could never chisel off 10 acres.
I don't know that that's true with the current regulations, they could not. But if you change your regulations.
Okay.
there's a Possibility they could be.
Okay,
I've seen it in other more populated.
okay.
Yeah, so that was where I was going next, is what of these other 16.1 acres that are not lots, could they be, and you're answering that under current regulations, no. Well, yeah, but you can only do one fixed area.
Because that like annuls the PUD, you know, with the 40 acres.
So all the restrictions would still be on this whole property, that whatever you get done with covenants and restrictions, that will stay with the whole property. The association will be limited to the 3 smaller lots, but all the rest of the covenants will be everything. So if in the future you change to 5 acre zoning, they could come back in here and split lot 1 again, possibly.
The 16 acres,
But
like into
but
5.
then if lot 1
5
was
acres.
subdivided again, any portion that was in the open space would be subject to so that could never be split.
Right.
But the rest of the 68 theoretically could.
Yeah,
I guess I'm just kind of curious that why you left that one big chunk so big. 16 acres, that it sounds like it's gonna be kind of the block that goes to the house essentially.
Well, the whole 36 acres is going to go without one.
Right. 20.
We didn't want to go put restrictions on everything because we weren't required to. And obviously, if you do that, then it does take away
Mhm. Resale.
50 years down the road, 100 years down the road. Don't want to limit what's possible.
I guess the story is, I farmed for 26 years. And that parcel of land will always have crops. I don't, someone does it, someone else. But I don't intend to. I've grown soybeans, I've grown corn for 50 years, big grain. It's kind of just way ahead of just your average piece of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
They're paying that whole piece now. Right?
Yeah.
They're out there going.
Give your one, the whole $9.
Mhm.
yeah, we do.
Yeah,
I think
but he tends to like his cars. Yeah. Oh, he wants the whole thing, 40 acres. And he's an agricultural farmer and he's going strong.
So trying to figure out then why are we here to talk about this if he wants to buy the whole 40? Does he want to do this kind of development too?
These pieces of land are worth about 5,000 an acre. And if you have a couple of homes, it changes the price of that land enough to make a difference.
You think you could buy this land essentially, you know, buy all or?
I don't believe you have any purchase and sales or anything along those lines.
No, but he's been to my home and, you know, he's gonna find a long time, that guy. He's not moving here now. And he has a bank, people know the money's coming from to buy this land. And we've been talking about this for a while. But it's gonna be green grass.
There's no secrets here tonight.
No, people think they're gonna pedal bikes on this land, I don't know.
No, and that was just one example that what we're trying to look at here, as we always do, is we like to look at not just this moment in time. We like to think about the future as well. And whatever decisions we make here are going to have some impact on people in the future, whether they buy it whole, buy it as individuals looking for smaller lots. And frankly, it is a little bit kind of like was mentioned here by one of those speakers. It's like you get to develop small lots and still keep your big lot, but you do it in a rural district where the zoning is 10-acre lots. So it's a little bit like was said, you get to eat your cake, you get to keep your cake and eat it too. So it's an unusual circumstance, but I think it's that way because the planners for the state like to have efficient development of smaller homes that are walkable. But I don't think they were not necessarily looking at this kind of development. I think they were thinking about more suburban development. This is not suburban development. This is very rural development in the middle of rural country. So that's why I'm asking all these questions.
I think it's unusual for Bakersfield, but not unusual for Vermont.
Yeah, I mean, my point of view is I could easily go in here and put 4 10-acre lots in there. And it would not be beneficial for the land or the community to have this farm cut up like that. This, I think, fits exactly what it's intended to do. It's preserving the agricultural land, allowing for the houses to grow, and to keep this land connected, the rest of the land connected, and still meeting the needs of the housing demand.
Yeah, and I agree with your point, and I see it clearly. I think it is only on the fear of, as you said, what could change over time, and that is that there is the possibility that there could be lots all the way up and down that road then of smaller size that start to chop into that lot one and change what was the original thought here, which was to preserve the majority of all that 40 acres into open agricultural land. So you've described here tonight that you need to put together some proposals that you would bring back to us
Yeah.
for restrictions, for protecting the homeowners that would go into these lots to make sure that where there's shared utilities, where there's single utilities, everybody's going to have some satisfaction, some security. And then also that there appears to be, for the most part at this time, and maybe for the long term, a goal that this is land that's kept agricultural / rural in its character. as opposed to suburban in its character. Because Bakersfield is kind of already segregated out where it's more dense residential would be preferred, and where it's rural is where it would be preferred. Are there any other thoughts about what they might come back with relative to these kinds of proposals? Because clearly that's what I think the future is, that we have another meeting about this till we get a little bit deeper with a little
Yeah,
more
I
specificity.
think there's, right now, tonight, we're in here for sketch, and that's before we can get the covenants together, we gotta make sure that the layout of our proposed PUD is acceptable to the board. And then when we come back, hopefully get approval for sketch, and then when we come back for the preliminary, is when we present the documents with the covenants and restrictions.
I kind of expressed my personal positions on this. You know, there are others that the three of you would like to express to make sure that when they leave here tonight, you have the best information that you can. And I would also make sure that, you know, some of these other comments that have been brought forward by members of the public are represented in what you bring back too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you can see, stones going forward. I'd rather see this.
Yeah.
We're in the brush.
And you would bring back an association with road maintenance agreement, septic agreement, you know.
Yeah, so after, assuming we get sketch plan approval, when we come for preliminary, we will have the
Got it.
association, the covenants.
And the restrictions.
and the easement agreements.
Cool.
Yeah.
Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. I happened to rent that farm last year. I was renting for a year, and you guys talk about keeping agricultural, and then you go talk to state, they don't want to farm there. They don't, because of the brooks, they didn't want to be there, and, I mean, it's almost impossible to farm there, because if you go talk to the state, they rules and regulations. You got the brook, like, that comes down by, down by the county road, and you got the brook that goes right by the farm. They don't want to farm, they don't want to farm it, the state don't want to farm it, that's why I'm not there.
Yeah, they threw them out. They did.
They don't mind the hay in there, but they don't want cows.
They don't want cows next to the brook.
You gotta pay for
So
it.
it's the runoff issue.
And that farm has a brook here.
You gotta pay for it.
It ain't on that side of the road, but
No, that's what cows are.
we pay taxes on this land. That's, you know, the story.
So talking about cows, that brought up another point, which I think was worth considering, and that is manure spreading. Liquid manure spreading is probably what the Agency of Agriculture and the Agency of Natural Resources are concerned about relative to the brook and the land. Is that something that you've thought about relative to some of the restrictions on this?
This is a whole different.
Yeah, so as far as the PUD goes, we're not planning on adding additional restrictions above and beyond Vermont's required agricultural practices, which already sets the stream setbacks and setbacks to the wells and other water supplies. So no, we're not planning on adding additional restrictions.
Water's up there.
I think what Mr. Weston's major run-in with the not run-in, but they're, yes, Marcel's. But what he was expressing is the barn across the road had a manure storage that was right next to a brook. And that was
It's all
a
cemented.
major issue.
They come over with problems and they're like, we can't figure out why it's so hard here. I smelled this pit. I was there since 1990. I got down. This is.
Right, I got one more just one question. That little triangle down there in the corner by County Road and Conway. Is that part of, which,
That
That part of-
where the barn is.
no, on the lot, on the county
Oh,
road and 108.
Yeah,
there.
so that's that's part of lot 4.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just the area that's not covered by the road easement that goes through it. 'Cause we brought the road around, so we could maintain the grade. We stayed 8% or less by coming up, and we didn't want to put the intersection right near another intersection. So we pulled it back, so that's why it sweeps up through there.
Kind of follow up to that. Does the 2.2 acre measurement for that account for the easement, or is that a part of the easement?
It includes the easement in that.
Yeah, so
So there's
it's a
lot of-
pretty significant easement through
yeah,
that.
there's a lot of area of that 2.2 acres that they can't use for anything.
Right.
So you can see in there, we have the outlined building envelopes.
Right.
That's the proposed area for the house could go.
And then with the lot 3, there's some additional easement through that. Does the 0.8 acres measurement there account for that easement, or does that include the easement?
And anywhere on the
Yeah.
plans, if there's an easement on a lot, that easement is still going to be owned by that person, so it's included in their acreage.
Right,
It's not taken out of there.
right. But they're going to have a road going through
They
there
will have a
when
road.
lot 2 is developed. And then,
Yeah, lot 2 is the least restrictive of all the lots.
right. That's a good line of questioning. Thank you for bringing that area up. So the goal would be that we could vote on this as a sketch plan so that they could go to the next step, which would be something closer to I'd probably call it a preliminary plan, because we would need to look at those restrictions and need to look at the additional drawing. And I think it would be really good to have the contours as is indicated in some, like this one, but not on this one. And yeah, it does help us just to see some things. You can see why you change the direction of the easement there, for example. You can see the shared wastewater, why that's there. I mean, it's pretty flat. It's pretty good. And then with the PUD, are you going to show wastewater permits for all 4 of these lots?
The wastewater permit will be one big permit that will include the full subdivision.
Okay, so that would include what is on lot 1 for this possible building location,
That's correct.
right? As well as 2, 3, 4.
For the main-
And that's for all 4 of them, or for
Three.
just 2, 3,
The
4.
lot 1 is completely separate except for the. shared
Right,
well.
okay, that's what I thought, yeah. I can see that
That's
south
pretty
of it.
That's pretty standard to state permitting for that, or?
Yeah, I mean, the wastewater permitting's pretty straightforward, yeah. No, they're very, very common.
You have a lawyer that you work with?
We'll have to, I don't know if Marcel has talked to him about that. I have some recommendations.
Yeah, well, I propose we accept this sketch plan. Just to see where it goes, what comes in next. We have a motion to accept this as a sketch plan for a
Second.
Okay, yeah, I second it.
Any further
Our next meeting's the 3rd.
This is Mike Jarvis, and I'm just saying that once we get these together, we'll get them back to Brenda, and then
Then we'll schedule. I think we have to warn it 15 days and everything.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? We're 4-0.
I'll buy it between now and then, so.
So, moving on to other, I don't know, having public comment after this is kind of silly. There's, yeah, so I was going to make that the new item 11 is what I put in my minutes. So next would be a review of the August 1, 2022 minutes. Anybody take a look at those?
I wasn't here that night.
Okay, I brought a copy. If necessary, I could read them. Otherwise, we could act on your memory. So the minutes were, you're welcome. Take care. So we opened at 7:05, asked if there are any adjustments. It was Tammy, Nikki, me. We had nobody show up. We reviewed the minutes. They were approved. Brenda gave the zoning administrator report talking about this property in particular for planned unit development and noted there were likely movement on other town issues. And next meeting scheduled for September 19th. And we can move to adjourn. Tammy seconded. We closed at 7:21. So I can't imagine that there would be a whole lot to object to in those minutes. So you two can make a motion and second if you.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
I second that motion.
All in favor of the minutes, say aye.
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 And any opposed? And it passes 3-0 with one abstention. We then go to the zoning administrator report. Is there anything you would like to share with us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things that I've done in our permitting process is stumbled into some very gray areas that we are going to address at some point in time. So, folks, select board and folks, part of it has to be the gray areas of camps. Resident, full-time resident. There's an interesting mixture of taxes because homestead credits define the time that people can be here part-time and not part-time. But then in zoning, we don't address it. We don't have any specifics for it. And it left us right now in a couple gray areas. When I'm getting questions from realtors about can somebody stay up there 11 months and still be part-time? Or can somebody live in a camp and remove their waste? And there's a whole bunch of interesting things that collide. I looked exhaustively as well as had a realtor asking me these questions, and then also looked and they want to purchase something that is designated for camp, and or they intend to live there year round. So it's an interesting gray area. I'm open to suggestions for that. The other thing actually involved Mr. Westcomb, who just left. We need to address a property that does not have a wastewater permit that somebody wants to build, and is claiming grandfather this and grandfather that. And it just doesn't fit any- There's no, my not exhaustive research, but Sandy, I did go and look at other owners there. Think about any wastewater permit. Direct individual, so, wastewater permit, permit. Also, then diving into what it means to have junk and waste to out of sight, but not out of mind, that borders other people's properties. And they may or may not be in cars, but there are certainly a couple that there's in town, that's residential districts, so I want to go to this. At some point in time, Bill, if I recall, we had something to do with those years ago, people getting unlicensed property. Maybe wrong.
I don't know if there were specific people, but I think it's not just me having brought it up. I think it was over the course of some number of years, a variety of people have brought it up. So it was not just me. And I actually prefer that it not be considered Bill Irwin's personal crusade,
Thank you.
because I speak to a lot of topics here,
Yeah.
and I don't want all of them to be thought of as my personal crusade, when
You can
really
throw that-
it's
you can throw
just a
that
matter
one.
of conversation or deliberation. and it's- Yeah. I think from now on, it should be all Ken.
One of those noted because I want to seek resolution for some of the questions that they have. Zoning administrator and then blank.
Yeah. Well, I must say, your particular time as zoning administrator has been helpful, because we're hearing a lot of different things. We didn't hear a lot previously. We kind of worked in isolation, unless somebody physically came here from the community, and you are hearing it from the community routinely and bringing it to us. For example, we revised these bylaws in 2017, and we have, as described rightfully, just one definition of what a camp is, nothing to describe what it means to be part-time occupancy, and also nothing else about camps other than how to convert them to year-round. So there's a number of things that we benefit from, both the revision and which makes some sense since we're now 5 years into.
I did, they cited our bylaws back to this. Yep, I got those, and we went a little deeper into wastewater, and said, oh, that's the state, I'm like, yeah, I know that. Got to the point where occupancy for tax purposes, and now all these are a cross definition or cross purpose, and none of them segue, or none of them join with each other definition wise or responsibility wise. So it was difficult to suss out and here for least a guidance or a potential answer, or yes, we'll work on this. This is something. Cool. I think there's a combined effort on this with the task force, because when we talk planning, we're talking about what is a camp? How do we define it? How big does it have to be? Square footage, plumbing, no plumbing, wastewater, now we're into the state with that, and on the permitting part of it, how do I permit people to live year round in the camp? Go ahead.
I would assume that we're not the only town in Vermont with these questions. So
I work on a listserv of zoning folks from around the state and ask these questions. How did you solve this? Once we have a specific question, and framing it will be everything.
yeah,
How zoning, you folks do, how select board does, how regulations are my guidelines and state as well. So I think to ask the correct question is to seek the right answer.
So I think, just generally speaking, the select board is probably going to be able to do more quickly. The planning commission needs time because we have to revise the plan and the bylaws. And neither of those is something that happens promptly. It takes deliberation, it takes a grant, it takes a lot of time by the Northwest Regional Planning Commission to get data. And so I would suggest that if there's some things that the select board can act on, and clearly a definition of part-time would be, sounds clearly like taxes relative to whether you're here 1 month or 6 months or 12 months can be answered by the select board. We definitely have our work to do, but I would suggest that the select board has some things that would be, again, faster and more direct. We're not a rapid.
So would that be like a camp ordinance then that they come up with?
It could be.
You know, where they decide a certain number of days per year you can be in this dwelling.
That might come from that listserv where maybe some other towns have come up with something. You've got to imagine that Belvedere and Montgomery and all the other places that have woods and lots and camps. Yeah.
I think that's a good place to start. And like I said, asking the right question will hopefully garner the right answer. And then I'll just go back to the Gates-Vincent boundary line adjustment issue where we got into, 2 or 3 feet of cross boundary or cross buildings on boundaries, and how do we adjudicate that without it costing a fortune?
I think we've already dealt with that. I think we've already voted.
I think we have.
And the select board has already voted. Those people either they talk about this. To me, it looks like it's a foot here and it's a foot there. And it seems to me normal people would live with that rather than we need to make a property line adjustment. Or if you think it's big enough to make a property line adjustment, then you do what these people tonight did, it works, and you notify everybody. There's reasons for everything there, and we don't make it easier for some people because they want it easier when others are willing to do it the way it's written. Because they know it's the right thing to do.
Glad to hear you go on record with that, Bill. I really am. Thanks.
For that, in that specific example, they're not creating a new law, they're just moving the line where it's over.
True. And it would be important if they want to, if one of them wants to sell. They can't sell with part of the neighbor's building.
At that point in time, like might be something that they're forced to do. But I don't see that that's being forced. And if somebody is moving, then that's a part of cost of moving. Again, people have costs in life. You could find out that your property line is crooked too when the people next door sell theirs. But you have to make an adjustment because that's a risk of life, right?
But that does sound like they could limit their abutters by just going with that particular
They had
parcel.
some options.
Yeah, they
so-
had options.
But that's up to them.
Yeah,
I don't think we can change.
no,
No, I don't think.
But they
we
can-
cannot change.
they
what
can
the
go
law
with the
says we
smaller
have to do.
parcel where it's actually
There
effective.
are some people that disagree with certain things. We can take as an example, fixed lot area allocation. And I. yeah. Okay, so, anything else? Yes, so that's next. Is there something that you want to say about this? I don't. Or somebody wants to say about it?
He even needed to come because it's pretty straightforward. And when was that actually applied for? It was like in 2021, correct? Yeah, so it's been a long time and he's been in a couple times and it's been warned the 15 days and in the paper.
I don't understand. Why wasn't there action taken?
I don't think that recognized it.
So
I didn't have a clear path to that.
I've never had a case where we decided that based on paperwork. Every case, every hearing we've ever done has had a human being presenting their hearing. That's why I think it's called a hearing, not a reading. We're actually hearing people and giving others a chance to hear it too. Because if all we do is read it.
March. Melanie was. March 21.
I think we had that and nobody came on. So it might have been we didn't know how to do it. So I think the best thing to say, and I know maybe I'm coming off like too much of a hard man, but I just feel like those rules and the safest way to do things is stay by the rules rather than try to make interpretations of the rules. So every different case of 25 and those interpretations are different. And the rule is that when you have a hearing, you present it in person. And ask them to come by one more time.
It sounds like that was what we decided here. Commission held a public hearing remotely by a government meeting on the environmental law subdivision, or just reviewed and you have to approve a subdivision application for the final plan. Application form. Clean up or the application must include full size. Only licensed surveyor includes all the details of the detailed pay. That is a little vague, that's one of these.
So do we have all that paperwork? We have all the paperwork.
We did submit the application for the final.
If that's the case, then it seems
Well,
like.
it says the final review will be held tonight.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jerry.
We'll have to warn it again in the paper. And it states that they have to physically be present.
When I sent to everyone on the left. Yeah, it's not the abutter, it's the petition.
No letter showed up anyway.
October 3rd, isn't that on the agenda? Yeah, right. Right.
So. I have no problems with that. So next meeting, October 3rd.
I do not think I would do that. My brother is different, you know.
So I don't know.
I would be remote if I did.
Okay.
So I'll be on Zoom. I believe I could do- I don't mind doing that.
If we were to move it to the 17th, I would be gone.
I don't think it needs to move this.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's October.
Yeah, October.
The 17th, I'm. Starting to get to where we're meeting.
The third Monday.
Instead of the first. So, you know, if you're not gonna be here, you're gonna be remote. Do you have any objection to moving it to October 17th? Well, why don't we just do that? That way-
Okay.
Because I'm a little concerned that they could come back.
Yep.
Yeah, that. No, but they could make the 17th, and even if they didn't come the 3rd, I hate to, well, if they did come, we would miss it. Yeah. So next meeting scheduled for 17th. And Bill, you still include that? I do.
I think she's with us.
Yeah, she's on there.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, I'm on. I'm sorry. My dog is a tracking dog and got into poison ivy and decided to lay next to me. So I am staying home covered in calamine lotion and
Oh, you poor.
Oh, Heather, that's awful.
yeah, it will get better. We just know now to wipe her down when she gets back from a track. So she tracks wounded, like if a hunter wounds a bear, it doesn't completely, and you know, she goes in and she treks so that they could find them. So bear or deer. So now we know, wipe her down. Learn from the school of hard knocks.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, I didn't notice that you were on there. I have this poll.
That's what your name is.
Right there.
And was there anything that you wanted to say from your position?
No, the only thing I was thinking of is I remember, and I don't remember how long this, if it's been replaced, but I remember there was a ruling that once we set a date and a time, we have to stick to it. And the state was pretty, and it could not be changed unless it was considered a special meeting. So I would just maybe see if we could look into that, because I do remember that, you know, it's been a couple of years since I've been in the town positions. But I do remember that coming up, and we had to call it a special meeting from Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns. I just can't remember where to find it, but I remember it came up because, you know, we switched meetings. This was when I was in Cambridge, and they switched meetings around, and somebody was like, no, you can't do that. You know, you set it once a year. If it's any different, it has to be called a special meeting. So it's just a wording, but just because we're in the kind of cases that we're in right now, I would make sure I would cross all the T's and dot all the I's, so nothing is reversed on a decision possibly. Challenged, I guess.
Thank you, Heather. I'll take that on with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns to ask questions all the time.
Yeah, I think it is useful to find out because if we have to stick with every first Monday of the month for the
Mhm.
whole year, I will not be able to make a number of meetings. And with a 5-person commission, that makes it difficult for others to not be here too.
Also,
But the flexibility of being able to move the date, I think has been useful to this commission. But if it's not allowable, then maybe I'm not right for being in a town civic duty. I'm too busy. So if you could find that out, that would be good.
No, maybe if it's warned properly, then it's okay,
Yeah, we
because we
try
always
to have it
make
in the
sure it's
minutes that were
warm-
put out within
warned properly, but
actual
we can check it out.
days of the-
It's also an issue of every holiday Monday is the first, I mean, how often is it the first? Monday?
4th of July.
But even if we were to make it like the third Wednesday, or excuse me, third Monday of the month.
Yeah, I second that.
I third it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned at 8:05. 9:05, I'm sorry.
Bye.